Good morning, NASSP faculty. Thanks for the opportunity to be here and talk with you this morning. My name is Matt Saferite. I am the Professional Development Director for Bentonville Schools in Bentonville, Arkansas. What I'm going to talk to you about this morning is rethinking professional development. I have been a junior high or high school administrator for over 15 years, a classroom teacher before that, and have just finished my first year as a district professional development coordinator. A few weeks ago, my superintendent asked me what keeps me up at night. And I had an answer right off the tip of my tongue. What keeps me up at night is the amount of money that my district and previous districts that I've worked in spend on professional development and the return on investment or the impact that that money has in the classroom in terms of explicit teaching changes and impact on students' learning. We're familiar with Marzano's work of when a student walks into an average teacher's classroom at the 50th percentile, and an average teacher's classroom, they leave the year at the 50th percentile. Okay. We focus in our district on the levels of effectiveness of our schools and our teachers, and one of my goals, my self-described goals as a professional development coordinator, is to move my teaching staff, my 1,200 certified teachers, to this level of highly effective teachers, and obviously work with principals and other staff in terms of making our schools the most effective they can be. I want my kids in my district walking in at the 50th percentile, leaving at the 96th or better. So my goal is to help my schools be as effective as they can and individual teachers to be effective as they can. What I see too often in American public school districts in terms of classroom instruction is a set of content that has some instructional piece and then an assessment that follows it. Very, very typical, but very linear. And then after this content A, represented in black, is presented, taught, assessed, teacher moves on to another distinct set of content, represented in different color here, content B, teaches it, assesses it. Not necessarily any correlation between the two content, no review of instructional practices. The assessment data is not wrapped back to other instruction or that content. This is not the ideal in my opinion. Having said that, this is better than what I see too often in some professional development, including in my own district. And the primary piece that I don't see in professional development is this assessment piece. Too often in professional development, I think we have knowledge and skills that we want our teachers to get. We teach it and using various methodologies, but that assessment piece is completely missing. Teacher walks out of the room and we have no idea if their knowledge and skills have improved and if there's going to be an impact in their classroom. They come back the next day, the next week, the next month or school year, and we've got another set of knowledge and skills that we've got defined, we instruct, and no assessment. I think this needs to change, and I think this is the heart of what needs to change in American school district professional development. We've seen the data in multiple researchers on retention rate, going from lectures that typically only has a very small retention rate, and this is kindergarten students all the way through graduate students. And then all the different kinds of methodologies of instruction that improve retention rates. Okay? And I don't want to get hung up too much on the exact numbers and methodologies. The point being, some methodologies have very little retention, some methodologies have excellent retention. Teaching, mentoring, coaching, those kind of things have an excellent retention rate. What keeps me up at night, the answer to my superintendent's question is, if a significant amount of our professional development in my district and your district is done using lecture, sit and get type format, and we know empirically the research says that the human is only going to retain about 5% of that, I make the correlation to that. That's the same return we're getting on our investment of dollars. If we dump $1 million into professional development and it's primary lecture, we're going to get a return of 5%. Not very good, especially when we could be getting returns on those dollars of 90% or better, or somewhere in between there. Okay? That's what keeps me up at night, and that's what I want to address both in my district and yours. Over this school year, this first school year of a professional development director, I have taken all the different methodologies we use and summarized those into a table. You can see here items that are not ideal, I highlight in red. Yellow is a little bit better. Green are the desired goals there. I want to maximize the methodology we use, like our PLCs, classroom observations, our coaching and mentoring. I want to maximize these over here, what I call transforming activities, as opposed to these transmitting activities where we're just doing lecture. We're doing typical trainings that have little to no value, relevance. There's no follow-up, no assessment. They're point in time, mandated attendance, and those kind of things. So I want to move us on this spectrum of effectiveness to the transforming. I also need to consider the cost in our professional development. Effectiveness will always be my first priority. But I've got a matrix here that I've developed of low and high effectiveness, and then another axis of the cost. Okay? So it gives us these four main areas here of low effectiveness, high cost, obviously things we want to eliminate. If something has limited effectiveness and very high cost, I want to eliminate those. I need to get those out of here. Lectures, sit and get trainings need to go. Anything with that low effectiveness. What I want to maximize is those things that are highly effective. Highly effective with high cost, we want to encourage. There's times and places for that. But the ideal there is the high effectiveness and low cost. I've taken this matrix, the 2x2 matrix wasn't specific enough, so I expanded it further, made it a 4x3, and plugged in the methodologies we use in our district. The good thing is, much of it is over here in this green. It's the higher levels of effectiveness and the lower levels of cost. We don't do anything in our district right now that's low effectiveness and high cost in this area down here, so that's a good thing. My goal is to still move these areas farther to the green, move these things up to the darker green by reducing the cost. As good as this is in terms of visual representation for me and others to look at, it doesn't talk to us about the quantity. How often do we do coaching and mentoring? How often do we do lectures? These two on this chart look like they represent the same in terms of the frequency. So the next chart I've been developing and collecting data on is how the same chart, the effectiveness versus the cost, but the size of the dot here represents how frequently we do that activity. And most of this data is fictitious here, but it represents my best guess, just because we don't have the data right now, on how often we do lecture type trainings. This low effectiveness but low cost, but because of the size here, you can see that represents what we do the most of. Here we've got our coaching and our flipped classrooms and our model classrooms and stuff like that, the higher effectiveness. So those three factors, the effectiveness, cost, and the frequency, are what I'm going to very specifically target and would like to learn from other people about how we really improve our effectiveness in our delivery and our professional development. What does the future hold? What is the desired future for us? In my mind, it's two things. One is we need to be much more systematic about our evaluation of our PD, both with teacher choice and the impact in teachers' classrooms. The next thing is the redistribution of funding. I think we spend far too much money doing a blanket approach. Basically, we allocate the same amount of dollars per teacher in terms of contracting their days for their PD. One of the things that I'm going to propose is redistribution of funding so that we can significantly expand our coaching cycles. That highest level of retention, okay, that highest level of retention. We may not be able to get every teacher here in a given year, but by redistribution we can get more teachers here and cycle teachers through. I said at the beginning I've got a big question. That's the big question. How do we be the most effective, number one, and number two, how can we be the most cost effective? I have an answer. I don't have much of it. I have the question. I don't have much of an answer. Here's my approach. I'll be loving to talk to you more during this session and online as we go forward into our school year. I hope this sparks some conversation and is valuable to you. Thanks for your time.